Everyone. The presentation is already properly done about me. Like she said, my name is Abdoulie Jallow. I've been an educationist for the past 10 years. Also, currently I'm the principal at Bimira Bilingual School, a school also trying to impact change in education in Gambia. But currently here I'm going to speak about climate change, something I've been into, I have very big passion for, and this is what warranted me to study an area which is a bit different from what I do currently, because I am an educationist now studying environmental science. It is a pleasure to be here, and this is indeed a great opportunity for us to share our part of the story about climate change, because this is a week or so in the Netherlands. I feel that it's difficult for somebody here to know what climate change is. And the impacts, like I told Marika, is that nature doesn't know who is actually responsible. So it is punishing somebody elsewhere over there. So it's good that we share our stories from the global south. So I will start by, first of all, discussing the topic at hand, which we all know. Sorry. Good. So the topic actually is climate justice, and as you can see, I mentioned a cry from the global south. I believe as students, you all are aware that the world is with these two ideologies of the global north, which is the privileged west, and also the global south, which is we, the unprivileged, Africa mostly, and some countries in Asia. So actually, we are not responsible of most of the impact caused by climate change, but we face the impacts more than anyone else in this on Earth. This is unfortunate, sometimes due to the location of our countries, but also sometimes due to the substandard life that people have, and they have no sustainability plans to stand against climate change. So this is going to be the topic. First, I will only speak about climate change in Gambian context, because looking at it, in Africa, we all face the impacts of climate change, but there is always a unique trend that each country has. What is common in all African countries about what we face in climate change is the loss of livelihood of people. That is very common in all African countries. But then each country also have unique things. And looking at it, it says Gambia is among the most vulnerable countries to climate change. This is because of the, one of them is the low-lying nature of the country. Gambia is generally flat, like the Netherlands. And then in most villages, they are a little bit above sea level, or some are even below sea level. And with this, our capital, Banjul, is just 0.85 centimeters, 85 centimeters above sea level, which means that with a little sea level rise, we will lose our capital. That means there will be no capital called Banjul. So it is threatening to us, because there are a lot of investments in the capital that we have, and that is it. So actually, looking at it, it says that the Gambia, our landscape is generally flat, and then the country, with all the little emissions we are doing, but we are putting a lot of efforts to make sure that we reduce our emissions by the year 2050. And even though we don't have much emissions, we are still trying to reduce it. We only contribute 0.01% of the global emissions, but we are still trying to reduce it. That is, we want to take it to zero. And there are many countries in the West here contributing a lot more, and they are not even prepared to reduce their emissions. So we move from there. This is a map of the Gambia. And as you can see, our country is a very small one with 11,000 square kilometers. And then I gave this map to give you a detail of it, that on the west of the country, we are bordered by the Atlantic Ocean. And then on the eastern part, that is the entry, we have a river that enters our country from the Futajalon Highlands. So up to half of the country here in the middle, the river is all fresh water. And then on the other half, which is closer to the coast, is all salt water. And the part that is freshwater is very useful to our people because they use it for agriculture, also for their cattle to drink. But also they are losing this importance because of the intrusion of the salt water, which is coming from the Atlantic Ocean, because there is high sea level rise in the ocean, which is also pushing the freshwater backward. So therefore, many people who used to live, on the banks of the River Gambia, and we are, benefiting from it by cultivating rice, or also, their cattle can drink from it. Now they have to struggle to get water for their cattle because that part of the river sometimes is becoming salty, and that cannot be used for agriculture. And this is a great impact of climate change on our country, which is making life even more difficult, even though it's already difficult, but it's making it more difficult in the Gambia. So looking at this, I just gave a little bit of statistics or information. That is, the capital is called Banjul. It's only 80 centimeters. I even thought 85. And then our total population, it's very small. That's 2.4 million people live in the Gambia. That is according to the current statistics. It is not that populated. And our emissions is 0.01% of the global emission, which is almost zero. But the impact is very great in the Gambia. So when it comes to disasters that happen in the country, from 2008 onward, disasters have been increasing, meaning every year, sometimes we'll have 4 disasters in 1 year, sometimes 3, sometimes, depending on that. A lot of disasters have been reported. In 2022, over 100,000 people were affected by the floods that occurred in our country. Most of them were sleeping in schools, some were sleeping in, religious places like mosques or churches, because their houses were all, flooded, and they lost a lot of their materials as a result of climate change, which is making our country very vulnerable to flooding. Also, moving further, I would want to, cut or simplify the impacts of climate change into 4, let me call them subtopics. Because the impacts must be categorized, or they must be classified, and this is why I wanted to make it short, because I have only a little time to talk about it. So these are the impacts I will talk about. One of them, coastal erosion in the Gambia, which is impacting our economy a lot. The other one is youth unemployment, which also is causing the youths to lose hope about their countries. And as I speak with you right now, there are many of my age group planning their ways to Europe. In any part of Europe they can make it to, and they can take any risk for it. You see thousands of Africans, that include Gambians, trying to go into the boats to Europe. Mostly they land in Italy or in Spain, Greece, or anywhere they can make it, and then later they will reach you here in the Netherlands. So this is it. Also, I will talk about food insecurity. I see in the Netherlands we have a lot of food. I struggle a lot when I go to a restaurant to find food. Options are many. You ask for tea, they'll be like, which type of tea do you like? The black one, the other one. For us, we don't have all these options you have. Anything you ask for, you have another option. Like when I go, they ask, do you want coffee or tea? I'll be like, yes, I want tea. Then they ask again, which other tea? Is it the one with ginger or the one with this? Or we didn't have all those options. You have all options. So sometimes I get confused. I don't even know what to choose. I just say, okay, bring the other one. So you are consuming a lot. You have a lot to consume. We didn't contribute to much to climate change, but we don't even have things to choose from. There are many crops that do not even do well now in the Gambia or in many parts of Africa. So this is the concept of climate justice, to know that people who have more responsibility should also take responsibility in addressing the issue, to ensure that there is some form of humanity. Some parts of the world, people are losing their character of being human. So this is because of, if you lose your livelihood, you cannot eat good food and so on, you are not even healthy, and then there are many things that come your way. So we will talk about flooding and drought. These are two contrast subtopics, because flooding is known to have happened in a place where there is too much of water. So if you have flooding in one country and at the same time you also have drought in the same country, it seems to be very confusing. You can see that this is a contrast, but I will tell you why I identified these two also as problems that our country is facing. But actually, I want to know how many of you have traveled to any part of the sub-Saharan Africa. Maybe you have an image of some of the things I'm trying to say. How many of you have? No. Yes. So I can see that my audience will find it somehow strange, some of the things I will talk about, or maybe even the accent right now is difficult for you to understand. But some of the people who have traveled can be witnesses. Yeah, yesterday I biked about 35 kilometers with a friend, and I saw a lot of green nature in the Netherlands. You know, you have forests everywhere, and then in some places the trees even come until they can cover the road, like you are driving beneath the trees as you are riding your bike. We don't have that in the Gambia. You know, you don't go in any part of the Gambia where you are driving a car and like the trees are covering you up there. So we will get to all those things. But then, first I want to talk about coastal erosion. I believe we, from the name itself, we must have an idea of what coastal erosion should be. You need to understand that the Gambia, like many West African countries, is privileged to have about 40 kilometers of coast. That is in the length of it, of the country. 40 kilometers of it is coast with beaches, very beautiful beaches. And looking at it in other way around, our country does not have much minerals like other African countries. So our GDP mostly relies on tourism and agriculture, which contributes up to over 80% of the country's GDP. But over the years, our tourism sector has fallen a lot. Many tourists are not coming to Gambia. In fact, most people have visited Africa, but not the Gambia, because most of the things that tourists wanted to see is being destroyed by climate change, one of them the beaches. So, as you can see in this beach, this is a beach in the Gambia where the Atlantic Ocean is coming closer towards the beach. And then the sand which was there, because also there's a lot of sand mining in the Gambia, has been, you know, eroded. And these people living close to this coast in the near future might have to struggle with a place to live in. And, you know, as we said, if you can see it, our country is among the top 10 most vulnerable countries to climate change. And looking at it, coastal erosion, because of a sea level rise, like I said, it says that a 1 meter sea level rise will lead to the inundation of many towns and cities in the Gambia. So, apart also mainly like due to our geographic location, like I said in the beginning, it says our rate of emission, which is the coastline in the Gambia, is based on scenarios. So, whatever is happening in relation to coastal erosion, we are not responsible, but because of the beach, Betty is here, he goes to the Gambia all the time. When he comes today, he will go to the beach immediately, but he is not going to this type of beaches. So the beach he is going to will also at some point be eroded, and then Betty may stop coming to the Gambia and start moving to maybe Senegal. You know, and people, there are a lot of people that are working in those places, that's their form of employment, youths, and when they do not have any employment, they will do whatever it takes to make it here to Europe. And this is why your governments are struggling a lot to take them back or to, you know, to do whatever they can do to stop it. But I can tell you that will be highly impossible. They can block, let's say, the channel in Morocco, the youths will make it to Italy. They block Italy, they will make it to Greece. They block Greece, they will make it to another country. Because they spend a lot of time thinking of a way out of the problem. So as much as your governments are thinking of stopping it, our people, the youths, are also thinking of going out of the trouble, which they feel they are not responsible. So this is all as a result of what we are facing as a country in relation to the consumption levels in the West. You know, you are doing a lot of pollution, you are contributing a lot to global warming, which is affecting us. You already know the temperatures of the Gambia, when I was younger, Banjul, it goes up to 36 degrees or something, that's the maximum of it. But recently, it went up to 43 degrees in the capital, Banjul, which has never happened in history. So most of you here, if you are in a country where it is 43 degrees, you will complain a lot. And this is what we face every day. Every day we are like that. So this is it. Then we move further. This is all details. Maybe I will leave this slide here if anybody would be interested to read. It says the coastal zone of the Gambia has been the most vulnerable asset. Actually, we have a lot of investment in the coastal area. In fact, the Gambia is more developed from the coast, and as it goes inland, it becomes less developed. Meaning, the more you are going to the coast, the more developed the places. Then the more you move away from the coast, you have villages and you have all that. But that coast is even more vulnerable to climate change than the others in the villages. So this is going to affect us, because if our coastal areas are flooded, it means we are losing almost over 40% of the assets that the country has in infrastructure. So this is why it is a worrisome thing, which we believe the global north, which is the privileged ones like you, should do a lot of things. I know right now some people are thinking, what can I do? But after this discussion, I will suggest to you what you can do. So also the next subtopic I inform you about is the youth unemployment. These are youths of Africa, but this one is specifically from the Gambia. These are youths of the Gambia, and as a result of lack of unemployment, I think you know what they are about to do right now. What are they doing? Who can, have an idea of what this picture is about? Yes? Excellent. Trying to come here to Europe. So you see these youths, very strong people, they have all it takes, and you'll be surprised to know some of these people are teachers, educated, they have their documents, some are police officers, some are, good people who are helping in the farms, but they lost a lot of hope in the country, and they risk it all on a very little boat. These boats you see, especially the one up, is just inflated with air. A little puncture of it means all of them will die in the sea. But they risk it all to sit on that because of what they are facing back home. So unless you understand the mindset of the person who is engaging on the journey, then you don't know why they have to do it. Because here mostly I interact with people, they will ask, but why? Why? If they come to Europe, it's not easy here, it's difficult. Why are they coming? But to them, what you call difficult is not difficult, because what they left behind is 10 times more. So this is why, as you can see here, it says according to GBOS, this GBOS means Gambia Bureau of Statistics, 41.5% of Gambian youths are unemployed. But that is not, it also have different categories. It says some youths are not in employment, some education and training stands at 56%, meaning most of them don't even have education, they don't have the right education to be able to get a job. Also, most unemployed youths, meaning if you have 5 unemployed youths, 3 of them are thinking of coming to Europe. Only 2 of them are thinking of, trying to, maybe they can make it in the Gambia. So this is why I say most unemployed youths see irregular migration as the only opportunity and hope. It's a great opportunity. Families invest in their kids to come here. You see, people sell their land and give it to their child to pay for the boat and come. So it's a great investment that people are doing, because, like I told Marika one day, I said, irregular migration is the new agriculture in our country. So people who couldn't produce better before, now they invest in irregular migration, and if the child makes it here, it's like that is the yield they are having, because they have invested and now they are getting a lot out of it. So 90% of households in the Gambia are vulnerable, and 74% do not have the ability to sustain themselves. That is the sustainability adaptation strategy. Meaning 90% of anybody who is living in the Gambia households, they have high chances of being hit by climate change. But out of that 90%, over 74% of them do not know even or have what to do if the climate change impact reaches them. So they are just waiting, for you to stop the emission. Maybe things will change, or they are just hanging on a balance that any day something happens, it's done for them. So we move from here. Now we move to this one, which is food insecurity. This is the one I talked about. You are very secure when it comes to food. I entered something, I think a supermarket, and then I found the lady was about to take out some things. Those ones were to be thrown. I asked why. He said, we open them. So when we open them, and then I think there are laws or something which says that you have to just throw it away after it's not bought. This is very strange. You have a lot of things that you are even throwing, which in Africa will be the first meal of a child who is supposed to go to school. But then the thing was there, and then in fact I picked a lot from it because I was thinking of throwing it, so I ate a lot of them. But I cannot finish it all. But I know after leaving, that is going to the dustbin. The following day again. So even what you throw away is enough to secure some families in that part of the world to be able to have good food, 3 daily meals. So you can see our country is classified as food deficit. Food deficit. I think when you do about budgets, you know what a deficit budget is and a surplus budget. So our country is food deficit, meaning we cannot even, if we stop working for a day, in 2 weeks our people will be hungry. It's like most people in the Gambia live from hand to mouth. What they produce today, they eat tomorrow. Produce today, eat tomorrow. They don't have, like you have these fridges, you keep food for, that can take you for a week, or you have a lot of things in your store. We don't have that. Every day the people go to the market. That is why when you go to the Gambia, the markets are congested. It's not like Europe. So you don't have anything waiting at home. You work today to feed yourself tomorrow. So research shows that 1/10 of Gambian population and nearly 1 in 3 Gambians is vulnerable to food insecurity. Every 3 Gambians, 1 of them is vulnerable to food insecurity. And in 2015, that's now long ago, 10.5% of the population was malnourished. 10.5 is not a small number. Then all those people were malnourished, including children, because Gambia also, the way we eat is completely different from the way you eat here. Since I came, I'll see they have a starter, then they have the food itself, then they have, I don't know what they call the last one. You see, so you eat a lot of things. So for us, we don't have that. You don't have starter, then this, then another thing. We have the food here, you eat and you go. That's it. So when I came here, this is all funny. Sometimes the starter I think is the food, then I will eat until I'm almost done. They'll be like, no, this is your food. I say, but what is the first one? They say, no, that's the starter. You are just starting, you didn't eat yet. So you can see with all that, some parts, 10.5% of their population is malnourished. It doesn't mean they are not eating. They are eating, but the food they are eating does not have the nutrients their body needs. So a lot of it is rice and then something on it. We eat rice every day. Every day in the Gambia, they know. You eat rice every day. So whatever you are eating will be rice and something on it. So what changes is what you eat with the rice, but rice is in every food that you have to eat. Unless then you go to restaurants that are very expensive, then you can choose other things. So food costs in the Gambia is increasing every day. If you go to the market, the prices of food increases per day. So right now it is very difficult for people to feed their families. Why? Because those who are relying on agriculture to produce, now nobody is thinking of agriculture, because you will work the whole year. We only have 3 months of rainfall now. In fact, 2 months, which is somehow distracted, and then you don't produce anything. So you will work a lot, you are so tired. At the end of the year, what you produce cannot feed you even for 1 month. So people feel that this is not a good option. The best option is irregular migration, so they invest in their kids to move, to go. So this is why food also is getting more expensive, because most of the things we eat should be is imported, mostly from Europe and other parts of Asia, maybe China, because they are producing a lot, and also few countries in Africa that are still able to cope with climate change. In agriculture, it says 50% of the labor force is done by women. In the Gambia, the women are doing everything. They work a lot. Men have, Gambia is a patrilineal society, I think you know, where men have that high class, ranking class. Not me, I don't have high ranking class. But most men, they are top there, so they just order the women to do things. Especially if you go to the provincial Gambia, which is in the upcountry, you see that the women do all the farming and all that. So the men are mostly at home and doing other things that they think is important, which is not. So our women are working a lot, and most of them also are not very educated. So any job that is about unskilled people who are not educated, they give it to the women. So when you go to a place, the cleaning and all that is done by the women, because they usually go through a lot when it comes to education. So this is all it. Then we move to flooding. This picture down is from my village. This one, I was just about to come. I saw it happen. I said, good, I will add this picture too. And this you are seeing is very close to where we have our school. The one up. The one down is in my village. But as you can see, this is not even flooding. It's a heavy wind that just came and carried the roof. And these people right now are living in a neighbor's compound where they are trying to help them. Maybe after the rains, they go and help them roof their house again. And you see these houses we build in Gambia, they are not cement. This is mud blocks. So when the water touches it, it melts, like they will melt. So but before the rain ends, maybe this house will fall, and then they have to build it again and help the guy to roof it. So him and his family are away from the house. Now, people have to take the kids, some will, take the other ones, and he live with others. So he will do that for the next 3 months, and then if the rain stops, then they will help to build the house. And this man has no responsibility to climate change, almost, if you have to look at it. He has not contributed much. And in July of 2 years ago now, the biggest rains hit the Gambia. It has never happened in over 50 years that we had floods in every part of the country. Even me, in my house, water was there. This one, in my house, there was a lot of water. I have one of my laptops which was even soaked in the water because it was in a bag and the bag was there. And that is the small ones, because for us it was not that much heavy around our end. But then many people lost a lot of livelihoods, food and materials were all spoiled because water came into their houses. And that is the time they were living in the schools and churches. In Banjul, they were living in the schools for over 2 months. And then after that, most of them were able to go back to their houses. So there was widespread flooding, and some houses were severely damaged. That is just for you to read. It says the most affected region during this period was Banjul, that is the capital, Kanifing municipality, that is where we live, where we are, and then the West Coast region and the North Bank region. So these are the areas that the flooding affected a lot, that people lost a lot of their livelihoods. Most of them don't even understand why it is happening. Even them, they'll be like, no. But if you tell somebody in Gambia that emission causes climate change, they don't believe it. The reason they don't believe it is because they know Gambia is not contributing to a lot of emissions and we are facing it. So they'll be like, how comes? We are not contributing, so this is not caused by the emissions. But we know science explains that the carbon emissions or carbon dioxide emissions in the atmosphere is contributing a lot to climate change. And we also know that most of that is coming from here, the West. I'm not just saying the Netherlands, everyone in the West. So then we move to droughts, but also down here is part of the flood, because I had a lot of pictures about flood. I didn't want to leave them behind, so I put this one. You can see this. This is Gambia. This is a picture taken from overhead. So these are the houses, and that, this is it. Pictures speak louder than words. So it says climate change also have made Gambia vulnerable to drought, and then it says variability and negative trends in rainfall quality and mid-season dry spell mainly attributes to the impact of climate change. Okay. Also, it's amazing here that you know your weather so much. Gambia is unlike that. The weather, it's difficult to understand. Sometimes we don't even know that today will rain, or we don't know whether it will be too warm or too our data are mostly, it doesn't work as it works here. Here, they know the temperature, sometimes they know, okay, it is going to rain, and mostly it works as they said it. But for us, the information that we are giving sometimes is completely different from what works in our country. So this also affects, and you are not prepared for it. In most cases, you are seeing that this is a village, a town, sorry. This is not a village, a town in Gambia. This is town. So on the other side, as an educationist, I've worked with in a lot of the parts of the Gambia. I've worked mostly in the upper river regions, also in the central river region. That's where I did a lot of teaching. I interact with students. And when I was there, because in the Gambia also, if you are in the towns, you think, I only knew how deforested our country was when I came here. Because I see trees, so I think that, oh, maybe we have enough trees. But when I came here, I knew that we do not have trees at all. So, but where I was teaching in the upcountry also, they have more deforestation, they have more impact of climate change. And all of them, they are rely on agriculture. So I used to engage the students on climate action and so on, and this is where the vision started to be able to build interest. And this is the reason when I went back, I had to go and study about environmental science to be able to, at some point, shift from education. I believe they are all important. Like Felix said, that is, education is important, but climate is, is important, yeah. So, because if the climate is damaged to a point, you cannot have education. You know, there will be a point, even difficult for you to learn. So they are both important, and this is why at some point, there are many other teachers before like me, we started talking about climate change and talking about it. But one thing we realized is that in the Gambia, in the rural communities, people do not believe in climate change. And you have to also understand that the education level of the Gambia is 46%. So 54% of the population is not educated. And even those who are educated do not believe in climate change. So this is making about 60 to 65% of the people do not believe that climate change is something that we can have a control over. So we started, having these community engagements where we talk to people in their local languages to tell them what climate change is, and to call elderly people who can help, because some elderly people were there who were there over 40 years ago. They know how the environment was. So they can just say, I don't know what climate change is, but I know that when I was younger, this and this was happening. Yes. So actually we do that, then we do tree planting, and we also do school outreach, that is talking to school-going children, usually during our free time, because most of the people here are people who are working elsewhere. So we do not have much time to, go into this, but then we create a lot of free time that we come together and then make impact in our communities. As you may know, in the beginning, I attended the Millennium Fellowship, where we were trained on the SDGs, and I specialized in SDG 2 and 13. So we mostly plant trees that are edible trees in different communities. We have partnership with the local municipalities where we partner with them, and then they allow us to plant trees in several communities, but mostly edible trees. So this is a video. Yes. I don't know how to play it. This is a video about a combination of few things people are going through. At some point I will stop the video and show you where I was talking about, where I was teaching. And that is here. I don't know if it's too fast. Yeah, it was here. The video is not very clear. These people send that around. I don't know if you have an idea what they are doing here. Anybody has an idea what these people are doing? Yes? Thank you. You know the struggles a lot. Good. So these people here, are around a well right now. And this well is the only source of water in their whole community. And you can see the village is a bit about 200 meters away from the well. And the well is there. That's where they get the water for drinking, also for their cattle to drink. This is in URR, a village called Sandikunda. This is, they get their water from here. This is where they launder their clothes, everything. So, and this is what they drink. Here in Europe, the water you drink is extremely clean, very, very clean. So you can imagine. And you can see how the landscape is this. You can count trees here. Let me keep playing it so that you see the trees. Just observe. And the houses are a bit away from the place. Huh? So the video will speak for itself. Okay, this is a picture of drought where people cultivated their crops, and then after 1 month the rain stops for over 2 weeks, so everything got dry. So that's the way. That's the picture which I already showed you. Those are some of the past pictures. What happens there? Okay, this one is flood in Gambia. This is part of that flood. I don't like the video's quality. But that is it. A lot of flood happened in the Gambia, and this is one of them. This is even on somebody's post. And that's it. Video is almost finished, huh? This should be most sad, yeah. So what you can do now, that's where it is. This is just my opinion. Maybe you can even do more. But in my opinion, what you can do is to spread the message about climate change. Even though you are not feeling it now, but share it that in some part of the world, people are suffering because of climate change. You talk about it, also by talking about it, it fosters understanding, and people will be more responsible and live a more sustainable life. And also in Europe, you have a very good political system, unlike Africa. Sometimes when the people react, things change a bit. So I believe that people should, put more political pressure on governments to commit to mitigating climate change in Africa. According to the Paris Agreement, it was agreed that the people of the North, also let me say most industrialized countries, will help in resolving problems in Africa of $100 billion per year to African countries for the loss they are going through. But this is just on paper, this is not happening in real life. So I believe if the governments are willing to talk up to say that it will be done, and it is clear that Europe and the United States are the countries that are even most unwilling to make sure that that money is put together. They are the countries that are not willing to see that this is together. So mostly they invest in Africa to stop the youth from coming, but they are not willing to invest in things that is causing the youth to come here. So it's going to be very challenging. Huh? So the other thing you can do is you need to use what you need, not what you want. So just get the things you need that you need to survive. Not that I want this, I want that, and then human wants are unlimited. So if you are on this part of the world and almost whatever you want, you can get it, and you are not thinking of the other parts of the world, it's going to be even harder there. So use the things that you need, not the things that you want. And finally, plant more trees. And I think Netherlands, you already have a lot of trees, but you can still do more. Yes, and in Gambia also, there are many youth organizations in Gambia that are doing a lot. Like you have I think Green Up Gambia, you have Help Gambia, many other youth organizations that are also, partnering together to make sure they put impact in their countries. So this is it. If you have, yes, this is just a quote from Mahatma Gandhi, and this is what he said, and it's true, I believe. Huh? He said, art provides enough to satisfy every man's need, but not everyone's greed. So it's true, and this is it. So I will just stand and wait for, this is the contacts, my details, and I will now wait for questions and answers if you have them. Thank you.
We have a little bit more time until 10. So
Yes, if you have questions, maybe, because I've said a lot, and if you don't also have, it's part of it. Yes, we've come a long way to come here. So ask. No, I think it should be the other way around. Questions, any?
I have a question, but thanks for the presentation. It was really informative.
Thank you, you're welcome. Thank you. Yes.
yeah, for me as well. Thank you very much for your presentation. We don't get these images and these stories done up through our media. It is silenced. It does not come get approved. You have to know people on the ground. You have to follow the right Instagram accounts to know. I mean, I know if you want to know, you can know, but not through mainstream media. It does not come through. I see you here with this amount of energy, which is so inspiring. And yeah, you are commenting the ignorance, the climate change. You are really making an effort in changing your local, making sure your locality benefits. But I mean, emotions are a big part of it. You are not responsible. You still need to get up every day and get to work. How do you manage?
Yes, sometimes this is why they said what happens outside the head affects what happens inside the head. What is happening is we are facing a lot that sometimes you just have to move, if not you are finished. So we cannot just keep blaming you, even though most of your people are not willing to take responsibility, but we are already losing our livelihoods. So this is why in little ways that we can do in any way possible, people commit, to make sure they contribute. And also, like you said, let me say, the ignorance about climate change is in fact the worst of all. You see people with degrees in university or up to any level, but they don't believe that climate change is something happening. I have a lecturer at the university who will say, no, you don't have to be afraid of climate change. What is happening is the world at some point will regenerate itself and correct what has happened, because similar things have happened before during those ages, I don't know when, whereby people were afraid, but at some point things turned and then went normally. So if you have somebody who is a professor and is thinking like that, that shows you the level of ignorance about climate change. And we cannot live a life on the balance where we have to know whether it is true or not, but then we have to do little things that we can at least. But in Pavel once said, leave the world a little better than you found it. If you cannot add to it, leave it the way it is. Or that is it, huh? So that's what keeps us going here. Thank you.